the Q&A session tonight for the 2023 Spokane Women on the Fly Summer Suds and weekend. So we're going to just kind of talk about the entire weekend. We'll do a full overview on it, do some introductions. So Amy, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Amy Jo Carlson. I'm helping out with just some of the logistics as far as how many are coming and who's going to fish with who. And then I've been fishing with the group since I moved here almost 7 years ago and just love it. It's like my second family, and always look forward to this gathering every year. It's just so much fun and it's so relaxed, and just all the information that people share with each other. It's awesome. So this year I'll be there, but I recently had shoulder surgery, so I'm not going to be doing a lot of fishing. So I'll be doing a lot of hanging around the camp and just helping people as they come and go through the day.
Cool. And then Liz.
First. I think you almost know me. I'm Liz Simpson. I will be there probably Wednesday through Monday, and a bug nerd extraordinaire and one of the mentors. And if you want an earful, come chat to me and I'll give you information about what to fish and how to fish it.
Awesome. And then I'm Heather. I think I know pretty much everyone too. And yeah, this is one of my most favorite events. This is so fun. I love the Coeur d'Alene. Cutthroat are so eager to eat dry flies, which is so fun. So it's a great river for, you can be super technical, or you can just throw a pink bedazzled fly out there. And if you get a good drift, you're probably going to have something look at it. So I love this river, and I love this event. I love the community and the people. And last year's Olympics were so much fun. I cannot wait till this year's Olympics, just saying. And then Lindy, she's working tonight, but Lindy, as you all know, is just a huge integral part of Spokane Women Fly. She does so much. And she's also on the board for Spokane Falls Trout Unlimited. She does all the newsletters. She does all the graphics. Like, Lindy is your behind the scenes woman who, she doesn't take a lot of credit for what she does, because she doesn't want that, like that showcase and highlight. But next time you see Lindy, just say thank you. And, because she does a lot for the group. And then contact information. So here's all three of our email addresses. So feel free to reach out to any of us, really to Liz, myself, or Amy, for any questions that you might have, but also utilize the Facebook group. So a lot of people have gone on these events before and will help answer questions. And hopefully this Q&A will help answer all your questions too. So as far as the fish and hang, kind of the Summer Suds weekend, what does that mean? That just means that we really want to keep something that's budget friendly. So Spokane Women on the Fly has reserved the Devil's Elbow group campsite. And so you don't have to pay for anything to come there. And basically it's just a weekend where people come, you camp, you go out and fish. Everybody's on their own to go out and fish during the day. And then we come back, and we're anglers. So we like to tell tales. Some might be truthful, some may not be, right? That's who we are. And really, the whole fish and hang kind of thing was one of my friends up in New York, Rachel Finn, she says it's all about the hang. So if you look at this awesome photo, that's what it is. It's such a fun group of people, and it's about the hang. We just hang, and it's awesome. As far as location goes, so Spokane's here, we're going to be up at Devil's Elbow Campground. So you're basically going to go up I-90. You're going to go up just to Kingston. So it's just before Kellogg. So it's kind of right here. You're going to come up, and Devil's Elbow is about like 38 miles upriver. So it's a little ways upriver. And, Devil's Elbow is great for that time of year because right now, the Coeur d'Alene River, a lot of the fish tend to move based on the water temps and the different times of year. So lower and colder seasons. So right now, a lot of the fish are down lower. So like Main River by Cataldo, kind of in the lower section of the Coeur d'Alene. As the water temps start to warm up a little bit, as the water just kind of starts to change, those fish will migrate and move. And so there's definitely a pretty large population of fish kind of in that Devil's Elbow area. So not only is it a great campground, but it's also a great location that you can go up or downstream and fish a lot of the tributaries as well in that area. So it's really great. As far as land acknowledgement goes, so we are on the Shoshone Native area. So looking at that in the Coeur d'Alene area. Travel, so it's about 3 hours to the upper North Fork of the Coeur d'Alene. So easiest way is for you to go up to I-90, take exit 43, go up Kingston, and then just drive up the road. That'll take you right to Devil's Elbow. Road is all paved. It's really good condition. You might have a few potholes, but nothing too major. And again, the closest town is Kingston. So that's going to be where your gas is. If you're driving from a long distance, Spokane's not that far, but I tend to always get gas down in Kingston, just because if I'm driving up and down the road, to go fish, it's better to have a full tank of gas than to stress out about getting gas. And that's going to be about the last time you have cell coverage as well. So Kingston, you may get it at Bumblebee Bridge, but it's not reliable. So as far as service goes, you won't have it up there. We will have my Garmin InReach. So if you need to send out any texts or if there's any emergencies, we do have a way to communicate with anyone if we need to. Our Facebook group. So this is, I'm sure almost all of you are on the Facebook group. I love this photo so much. So it's a great place to just connect, but also ask questions and to make fishing buddies. So especially on this weekend, as well as all other times, is just reach out and just say, hey, I'm going to be going to Summer Suds. Does anybody want to fish on Saturday or Friday or Sunday, right? And why did we choose June? We chose it because, well, the green drakes, duh. No, we have green drakes, we have salmon flies, there's golden stones, the PMDs are just starting to kind of take off, maybe some yellow sallies, you still have flavelinas, you still have blue wing olives. It's just this mecca of bugs and insects, and it's amazing. So, and, it's usually the Coeur d'Alene River is interesting, is it's the first to kind of blow out, or the first to, with runoff, but it's then the first to come back into shape. So June is a really good time for the Coeur d'Alene. Usually, historically, the St. Joe, you can't really even fish until July, August, just because there's so much water. So Coeur d'Alene is kind of that best June choice. So as far as itinerary goes, we have the campgrounds through from Thursday all the way through Monday, the 12th. And so y'all are welcome to come early and stay late. And basically it's, you come, we're at the Devil's Elbow group campsite, and then arrive, fish. And then in the evenings, we'll be telling fish tales and just having some kind of community time. Saturday night, we'll again do those Olympics like we did. Liz and I have been coming up with some different ideas of the Olympics. Last year, for those that you don't know, we did a thing where, and it was pretty cool, almost, I think everyone actually participated. And so everybody drew numbers, and there were teams of 2. And basically we had these indoor rods, and you had to throw and cast and knock over these cans. You had to knock over 3 cans, and that was the first person. Then you had to run around, and somebody else had to drink either a LaCroix or a Bud Light, whatever they wanted to drink, and then choose a fly, tie a knot on it with tippet, and had to take the can across the finish line. So it was just a really fun, it was a really good time. And this year we'll figure something out. It might be like putting on waders and boots, tying a fly. I don't know. We'll figure all of that out. But it was a fun relay and a great way to just get to heckle each other, I think, was Rob. Poor Rob. His eyes were so bad that he couldn't even see the hole of the head. Oh my God, of the fly. It was awesome. Yeah. So as far as group camping goes, we reserve the group campsite, as I said, and on at Devil's Elbow. So you just have to register. So anybody can come. If you want to just come for the day, that's great. You don't have to register for camping. But if you are planning on camping, again, we can only have 50 people there, technically only 12 cars. So we are encouraging some carpooling if possible, and we only have spots for 5 trailers. So again, just register on this Eventbrite, and Amy, all of the trailers are full, correct? And then we still have some spots left for registration.
Actually, we had a cancellation for one of the spots for camping, but I'll get with you in case we've had somebody cross with you and I about the camping, just so that we don't over promise and book. Totally. And then also, it's nice if you're just going to come for the day on Saturday, if you can go ahead and register. That way, if we have a good idea of how many people might be there for the evening, and that would be awesome. And that way, if we have people hanging out, maybe waiting for you, we know you're coming.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And all of that registration's all through the Eventbrite link. So yeah. Picnic tables and outhouses are at the group campsites. So there are, I believe, 3 different fire pits. So we'll have like a community fire pit. Spokane Will Fly will buy wood like we did last year. So we'll have enough, for a fire. Dogs are allowed. We just ask that well-behaved dogs come, and that the owner just is responsible, clean up after the dogs, and ensuring that those dogs are not disturbing anybody's fishing water. I think that's one of the biggest things, that they're not just playing in the water and disturbing the fish. Place your tent anywhere you'd like within the group campsite. And note that there are going to be a lot of people there. So you'll probably be near somebody is at the end of the day, but that's why we're there. We're here for community and here for that group campsite. If for some reason the campsites, because the camping does fill up, if for some reason you aren't able to get into the group campsite, then you can, there's lots of other campsites around. They just did Kit Price. They completely redid Kit Price, and there's a ton of additional campsites there. So if you have a trailer and you weren't able to get into the trailer spot for the group campsite, and there isn't anything available at Big Devil's Elbow, then I would look at Kit Price, because I'm sure there's going to be something available there.
They're really quick too. I talked to Sarah, and their group they have sites at Kit Price. Okay. So even if you go to Kit Price in that overflow, when you register, if you let me know that you're at Kit Price, I'll let Sarah know that you're going to be there too.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And we'll definitely invite Palouse. Hopefully they'll come up too, because it's only like a 6-mile drive. It's not very far, but it'd be really fun to have the big, huge Olympics together. It'll be awesome. So, and then just carpooling, if you're able to carpool, that would be great. It's good for our carbon footprint and our planet, but also just for parking. As far as meals go, you're on your own for all of your meals. We will have a communal stove. Usually somebody makes coffee. That's usually a communal coffee. But if you want to share meals with others, then again, just post in the Facebook group and just coordinate that together to where y'all can share meals. We've just found, actually, it was because of COVID, we stopped doing like a potluck. And I guess we could, do you all want to do a potluck on Saturday night, or do you like it where you don't have to worry about bringing something to share? What is the consensus of kind of the group? What do you all think?
I think it's probably a good idea, Heather, to just plan on doing your own rather than a potluck. Okay. Then you have to sort out, well, who's doing main course salads? Right. Yeah. That's just extra work.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, I agree with Peggy, is some people will be there at 3. Some people will come sliding in at 5:30. And if we have anybody that are bringing their kiddos or their pups, they're tending to those. So I think it worked out great. If you have food that left over that you want to share or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Just have to watch, because some of the dogs are a little sneaky and they might decide they're going to just help themselves to the table.
Luckily,
Not
Cooper
saying, just saying.
Yeah. Cooper was
I got
too
a little
short.
Sophie girl that does that now too. So
no, I think that's a good idea. And, I'll bring coffee. So we'll definitely be making coffee. I'll bring creamer, that kind of stuff. So having that communal coffee in the morning is always good. Saturday night, again, be ready for Fly Fishing Olympics. They are going to happen. We'll have some prizes too, for sure. Maybe even a pair of Smith sunglasses. I don't know. We'll put something fun together. As far as education goes, this presentation is really, or the Q&A, we want to always, Spokane Will Fly is always push for education, Tuesday tips, everything we do, we want to push education. And that does not stop for this weekend. So, if you are new, or if you have questions, or you want to ask advanced questions or whatever it might be, just ask, just sit down, talk to people, talk to the three of us as far as our co-hosts. We can do knots together. We can do leader setups. We can talk about flies. Don't be shy to ask questions. This is what it's all about. This weekend is all about supporting and encouraging and empowering women. As far as mentors go, Amy, you want to talk a little bit about the mentor program and kind of what that looks like and what that means?
We have seasoned fisher people that have volunteered to pair up with those people that aren't as seasoned and have a mentor a couple of hours on Saturday morning to go out on the river, or just to sit and tie flies or learn about flies, especially if you're with Liz. It's like, what does this mean to go to that, to go to this? And they're set up so that they can help you put everything together. What's a leader? What's a tippet? Those types of things. And we haven't had anybody at this point ask for a mentor, but we'll try and pair people up as they request that. If you can just let me know, or send an email if you've already signed up and you've decided that maybe you'd like to have a fishing buddy, or you'd like to have a mentor, just let me know, and we're happy to do that. And then, Heather, I did have a question. One of the mentors asked if we were actually going to have a mentor class before we go to the St. Joe.
Yeah, no mentor class before. Was it somebody that had already been a mentor?
I think, no, they were new.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not in the state all of May. So unfortunately, no. But and I think we opted to, I think you, Liz, and I had talked about that we probably didn't need that because we had enough. But that's something we can look at in the future. Maybe this fall, is anybody that wants to be a mentor, do another mentor session. Because I thought that was really good. It was really fun and a great way to teach the teacher so we can learn how to be better mentors. So maybe we'll look at this fall to do that. Maybe, Liz, rather than doing a casting, we do a mentor half day or something.
Good idea.
So yeah.
And Amy, if they're still wanting to kind of, if it changes and we have a lot of people that need mentors and they just kind of need a refresher or kind of a skinny rundown, just have them message me.
Circle back.
Yeah. And they can definitely just check in with me.
Great.
Yeah. Cool. So you're not going to be hearing my voice much more anymore. I'm going to give this over to Liz after a couple more slides, but all cutthroat. So on the Coeur d'Alene, these are wild native cutthroat fish, cutthroat trout, and they all are catch and release. So do know that if you catch a cutthroat, it should be released. This again is DIY fishing. So you come, you go, you ask, you fish, you conquer, and you come back and you tell us all about it. As far as, this is just a map that I took a picture of. This is a great map. What I will tell you is get off the beaten path. So, early June, not a lot, the river hasn't really been fished much, but this is such a phenomenal river. You're probably going to go back up in July or August. And these fish do become fairly educated. So, thought behind this is that there are tons and tons of tributaries. Now, especially if the water levels are really high, which potentially they could be, because we all know that we've had a pretty interesting winter, right? So the main river might be pretty high. So if that's the case, then a lot of those fish will probably be up in the tributaries, and also the tributaries will be smaller and easier to fish. So with that being said, so here we have, this is Kingston. So you're going to come up this way. You're going to come up, you come around, and here's Devil's Elbow. So when we look at Devil's Elbow, there's Yellow Dog Creek. There's all of these different creeks that are coming in. Okay. And then you also have, this is the Little North Fork, or the North Fork of the Coeur d'Alene. So this is a great location to go and fish as well. So if you're going to come up, this is quite a ways from Devil's Elbow. This is probably about a 45-minute drive, I'd say, on the road, maybe a half an hour based on how fast you're driving, just to get to this cutoff. So it's like the Bumblebee, you'll see a sign that says Bumblebee Campground, but this early season can be a great time to fish, just because their fish are there, it's smaller water, and it's just easier. So suggestion again is kind of familiarize yourself with the area. There's maps of this, and I can actually send this. I just took a picture of it. I can put it on the Facebook group. So might be not a bad idea for you just to make a copy of it, print it so you have it, or at least take a picture and put it on your phone. And then some of the different signs while you're driving up the road will have these maps as well. So, but again, you're going to be more successful if you get off the beaten path. And that could even be walk around the bend, because most people just hop out of their car and they just fish right where it's at, and it's easy and it's accessible, but that area is being fished a lot. So yeah, hike away from the road. The other advice I would tell you is fish the longest leader you can cast well. So I've, in the last probably 4 to 5 years, have had, for a single dry fly, have had so much more success by fishing a 12 to an 18-foot leader. So this again is for a single dry fly, but fish longer leaders, right? So 12 feet, if you can cast that, I would say should be your minimum. I know it sounds crazy, but you're going to be much, much more successful. You're going to have a much better drift. And then just, again, talk to Silverboat, talk to Northwest Outfitters and look at the local fishing reports and kind of see what's happening in the area. And that'll give you a good idea. And we'll continue to talk more and more about it in the Facebook group too. Like, hey, these are the bugs that we saw. If some of us have fished the river beforehand, we'll give you all that information. Different ways that you can fish this river. You can float in a drift boat or a raft. I usually bring my raft up so I can fish the upper portion. Not really accessible for drift boats because there isn't really great boat launches, but on the lower there is. So walk and wade. So that's primarily what you do. That's why this river is so great for all of us. You also can, the Trail of the Coeur d'Alenes actually goes right along the river, and you can ride a bike and fish as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can fish. And Liz, I'm almost to you. One of the biggest things I think that is super important for us as anglers for just safety is to know the flows. And what I mean by that is just know the river flows before you go. So again, we have a fairly significant snowpack. It's going to be 70 degrees this weekend. So some of that snow is going to start to melt. So all of that snow melt is going to go into the water levels are going to rise. So something to watch is going to be, there's 2 different water gauges. There's gauge stations on the Coeur d'Alene. And so there's one at Pritchard and there's one at Cataldo. So you can look at both of those and they're listed at Silverbow. If you go to the Silverbow website, you go to the fishing reports, it has everything listed. It not only has the current flows, but it also has the predicted flows, which I look at quite a bit. Like, okay, I want to go fish on Thursday and it's Monday, but I look and there's going to be this huge spike of water, probably not going to be the best time to go. But if it's on the drop, that's a good time to go, right? So looking and really kind of familiarizing yourself, you're going to be a better angler, you're going to catch more fish, and also safety wise. As far as fishing licenses, so we are going to be in Idaho, so you do need a fishing license in Idaho. The great thing about Idaho now is that they do an auto renewal, so they just take my money every January 1st, and I don't even have to think about getting a license. But if you're not on that program, you're just, get a 3-day or an annual, whatever works best with however many days you're going to be fishing in Idaho. Regulation.
Sorry, yeah. Heather, just to interject too on that, the Idaho license. So Idaho has an outdoor, it's called Go Outdoors Idaho. I don't know if this is going to show up or not. Let me see. So this is their app.
Oh, okay.
So that is a great app. And the best part about it is your licenses show up here. So you do not have to have a paper license any longer. You can, and it will show up even, so here's my license for 2023. And you do not have to have service. So as long as you've downloaded the app and it has shown up on your app at home, or when you have service, when you're up on the river, and if you get stopped by ranger or whoever, IDFW, you can pull that app up and show your license right there. So you don't have to worry about, oh gosh, should I pack it? Is it with my hip pack? Most of us always carry our phones, and again, you can renew your license right there. It's pretty slick.
Awesome. Yeah. I need to get that. That's because I will screenshot it, or I frantically look through my email trying to find it, so, yeah. And, regulations are there to protect the fisheries, so please know and obey them. Catch and release, also single barbless hooks. And if, as a keep fish wet advocate, the number one injury to fish is barbs or is hooks. So if we are practicing fish or catch and release, then it's always important and always best practice to pinch the barbs, because if we want to release these fish into the wild unharmed, and if hook injuries are the number one injury, then one thing we can do is just pinch the barbs. Pretty easy to do. So just familiarize yourself with the different regulations. And then Liz, this is my last slide, and then I'm giving it over to you. As far as fish species, native and wild West Slope cutthroat, there are wild wild rainbow trout, and then mountain whitefish, and there's brook trout apparently. So Liz has caught some, and so has Jeanette. So there are some brook trout, which I did not know about. I've never caught a brook trout in the Coeur d'Alene. So really cool to see that there's another fish species there as well. And then Liz, if you want to take it over, and I'll go through all the slides as you're, me, I fill in when we need to switch.
Perfect. Yeah, Jeanette caught a brook trout, and we were shocked and took a couple seconds to recognize it because neither of us had seen one. And then the following summer, Molly's husband caught a brook trout, and so yeah, pretty wild. All right, so the equipment that you'll want to bring with you or have access to, typically 4 to 6 weight rods, 4 weights for your dry fly, 5 weight is a standard, perfectly acceptable rod for dry flies, nymphs, 6 weight for your nymphs and or streamers, and pretty much your standard average 9-foot length. Most of us have the 4 to 6 weight. 7 weight, probably a little bit overkill, and 3 weight, definitely underkill. And you're going to want reels to match with floating lines. All of this water is, none of it really needs, there's not that many deep pockets to need to have a sinking line. Leaders that you're going to want to use are going to be a 9 to a 12-foot leader, and in sizes 3 to 5X. These aren't super spooky fish, so you don't need teeny tiny leaders and tippet. And then tippet spools, same thing, about 3 to 5X, maybe a 6X in there as well. And most importantly is just safety. As Heather was talking about, this river can get pretty big and get pretty moving. And there are definitely spots that can be pretty tricky. So always have a first aid kit with you. Definitely bring a wading staff or find yourself your favorite wading stick. Take some water with you when you're on the river, and snacks, sunscreen, even if it may be cloudy and slightly rainy, that sun's still going to be coming through. And definitely a change of clothes. I always just pack that change of clothes just in case you fall in the water or get a little damp, or the river is a little bit deeper than you thought it was and some water goes over the top of your waders. And definitely. So last year it was a very wet, rainy, but amazing fishing weekend. Definitely bring a raincoat or two so you can let your first one be drying out. Have layers. So, you know, there were days, sometimes we may get 70-degree days and we may get 50 degrees in rain. So definitely have layers. The water, again, it's still just beginning to be summer. So that water temperature is still going to be kind of 50 degrees. It's not going to be warm necessarily. So bring those cold weather layers, gloves, stocking cap, just in case, and then also be able to take those layers off. Definitely boots and waders. This is not a wet wading season. It's still pretty cold and that water is fast moving. Felt bottoms are great, as well as Vibram soles with studs. This is not a slippery river. If anyone's fished the Spokane, it is not slippery like the Spokane. So felt bottoms here are absolutely usable. And then definitely polarized sunglasses. That is going to help you look through the water, get the glare off, and really be able to see those currents and potentially those feeding fish. So this is a classic Coeur d'Alene hatch chart. So this is just going to kind of show you, if you look at the May, we're going to look on both sides of, or June, sorry. We're going to look at both sides of June. So June, technically it looks like ants and beetles are starting. Well, it kind of depends on the temperature. If it's really warm, certainly. But if it's still cooler, they may not be. BWOs could still be hanging around for sure. Definitely caddis, golden stones, not only the nymph, but also the adults. Gray drakes are pretty much done, but green drakes are coming on. Again, we may get a hopper or two depending on the temperature, but probably not. Mahogany duns, that's a fall bug. March browns, that's a March and April bug. Midges are year round. Always fish your zebra midge pattern. October caddis, hence the name. Pale morning duns and pale evening duns. So those are going to be kind of your yellow colored mayflies. Those are going to be starting to come off, again, depending on the temperatures and the water temperature. Salmon flies may still be trickling around, kind of depending on the weather. And squallas most likely will be done as well. And we may get some yellow sallies. Trichos, definitely too early in the season, but I think I did see yellow sallies last year. Definitely saw golden stones last year.
Yeah, and green drakes like said, that.
Yeah. Huge plethora, so many grocery options. It's amazing. So here's some fly suggestions, and I will keep, I'll keep posting in the Facebook page as well, the event page, just kind of some suggestions, not only fly names, but also just visuals, so that you don't have to go, oh God, I've got to go buy X, and then you go buy X and you realize you actually have 20 of them already. So I'll post names and photos of what those flies are representing. So the thorax drakes and flavs, those are both mayflies. They're kind of a stout mayfly. Green drake sprouts, so that's an emerging bug. Green drakes are definitely an epic hatch on that waterway. Parachute Adams and purple haze, classic mayflies. Those are going to imitate any mayfly body shape. Your golden stones in both the subsurface and adult phase. Larimer's yellow Sally is going to be a yellow Sally, which is a small stonefly. And those are mostly, you'll see those mostly, again, they can be teeny tiny little ones subsurface, and they're also pretty teeny tiny when they're adults. And then your yellow or golden chubbies. So those are going to imitate your golden stones and potentially be a hopper if there's a hopper or two around. Royal wolves are just a great searching pattern, and not really, you know, designed to look like anything, but look like lots of things. Caddis, classic X caddis is a great one. Elk hair caddis, another really good one. Is that a pale morning Madam X? Is that what the PMX is?
Yeah, it must be. Or okay. Yeah, or maybe it's PEDs, but I would say it's like a Madam X, and then PMDs.
Yellow. Yeah. So those are going to be your PMDs or your pale morning duns, and then droppers. So these are going to be some subsurface flies. So a caddis pupa, lightning bugs. Those are all just kind of an attractor pattern. Subsurface hare's ear. Definitely need to have some hare's ear, some pheasant tail. All of those mayfly subsurface bugs. Tungsten bead nymphs, mostly because, especially if we've got some good flows, that water's going to be moving and you want to get that bug down quickly. And always your Pat's rubber legs, your stoneflies. I have been fishing like 7 years now, and I've never caught a fish on a Pat's rubber leg ever. And I know everybody else does until last year on the Coeur d'Alene. So I'm a convert now.
Well, Liz, you have to fish them in order to catch a fish.
I fish them all the time, and I never catch anything. I think I even took a picture of it, like my first stonefly or my first cast.
Oh my gosh.
So this river is very generous, and you can fish whatever style you like. If you are a dry fly aficionado, you can definitely fish dry flies. You may not get quite so many, but you can fish any style. If you want to fish dries, you can do dry droppers, you can swing wet flies, you can just do a double nymph rig with a bobber. Yes, it's a bobber. You can Euro fish or check nymph, Euro nymph, high sticking, or you can throw streamers. Be Ryan and only throw streamers. And then here are just some kind of setups. And again, I know we're going through this a lot. This is why it's going to be recorded. And probably for the month of May and definitely the start of June, I will just be posting a lot in this event on the Facebook page, just reiterating these things. And again, if you have questions, never hesitate to reach out. So here are some kind of just basic leader examples of how to set up your flies, depending on what you're going to want to fish. So this is going to be your basic nymph rig. Your anchor, lead, or point fly. That's going to be the heaviest bug. And in this picture, it is that tungsten bead Pat's rubber leg. So that is going to be your heaviest fly. And then your dropper, if you hear language of your point fly, I'm going to tie on X. And then for my dropper, I'm going to tie on Y. That's the language that people will be using or that you may be hearing. So then your dropper fly, especially on a subsurface, you can tie your dropper kind of in 3 different areas, and we'll discuss that. So your point fly on here is that Pat's rubber leg, and then the dropper fly. You wouldn't tie all 3 of these on the same spot, but you would fish that dropper fly, and this is a hair zero nymph. This is a great subsurface fly.
And this was just a dry fly example of ways that you can, if you did a 2 dries, like a dry dropper, then you would have your point fly here, and then you could tie it off the hook bend, off the eye of the hook, or you could do a tag in. So it's just kind of a visual to show that that's how you can do it. So, yeah.
So this is your basic dry fly setup. You're going to have your floating line, which is your regular fly line, attach your tapered leader, anywhere from a 7, usually like 9 to 12 foot leader, and maybe add some tippet. If you can cast, a 15-foot leader, definitely add some tippet. If you can't, no worries. You will still catch fish on a dry fly. And then tying on that dry fly of your choice. In this case, it happens to be an elk hair caddis. And again, especially as much as everybody wants to know, well, how long should I make it? Well, it depends on what you're fishing for. I have had to have really, really long leaders, just like Heather talked, because, that fish is far away or they're really particular and you just want to be as stealthy and quiet as you can with that dry fly. And sometimes you have to make things really, really deep if the water's really turbulent or you're fishing through a really deep trough. So this is where adjustability really comes in handy, and just kind of recognizing, all right, am I getting where I need to go? Is that the drift that's happening? Maybe I need to change up my leader and tippet length. And this is just a killer fly. I caught one this last weekend on this brook sprout. The brook sprout is it's a, what do we call it? A dry fly emerger, a dry emerger?
Yeah.
Wet emerger. So this one mostly, you can't really see it from this angle, but it's kind of a C-shaped hook. And that little white spot and the hackle that's horizontal right there, the white spot is for the visual for us because it's a teeny little fly. And then the hackle is what keeps that fly floating on the water. But what you don't see, which is in the fish's mouth, is kind of that nymph body that is trying to emerge, that's imitating a nymph that's trying to emerge and stuck in its shuck in the film of the water. And trout, this is just, yes, have this fly. That's all there is to it.
You should have at least a dozen of these. I have an entire fly box dedicated to the brook sprout fly, truly.
Hey, Liz, what size?
I usually have 12s. Well, okay, so green drakes, which are going to be a bigger, fatter mayfly. I use like a size 10 or size 12, but then up to a 16 or an 18. And I think I have some teeny tiny 20s.
Yeah, I go 22, 24s. So especially black for midges, you know,
Yes.
but yeah. And like that one was probably this PMD. So the yellow PMD, that was probably, and PMDs are fairly bigger mayflies-ish. I think that was like a size 18, but your blue wing olives are going to be 18 to 22s. And then your tricos or your midges. So the same style in black, I would fish anywhere from a 20 to a 24. So my suggestion is they make them in all colors. So I would say purchase, you know, like at least 6 of each color in different sizes. Yeah, there you go.
All those.
Yeah. So, but have yellow. So for this time of year, yellow, black, and kind of the grayish body to imitate a blue wing olive, but then also have some green drakes. So I would have all 4 colors in different sizes. So you too might have your own fly box. It's just Brooks Proud Flies.
And again, I will absolutely post, like I said, I will post names and real life photos of these flies in the event. Just so y'all can kind of see that in person and get a better sense of that and look through your own flies.
Yeah.
All right. So another way to fish is with a tippet ring. Tippet rings are teeny tiny. This is a lovely microscopic photo of it. This is a great way to prolong your leader and to only really, you know, you're not going to start cutting into your leader and you'll just break off at that tippet point. So the classic use of the tippet ring is that instead of having instead of taking from your leader and tying the fly directly, you're going to tie on the tippet ring and then add a chunk, whatever you need, 1 to 3 feet of your tippet, and then tie on that fly. So that's a great way. You can even have a 9-foot leader, tie on a tippet ring, and then add 3 more feet. And there you go. You've got a 12-foot leader right there. And then tippet size is dependent on that fly size as well. Hopper dropper. So this is another style of rig setup. So this is where you're going to have a hopper or a bigger stone fly, just a big dry fly. Some really big caddis can hold up a dropper as well. But this is your big dry fly and then a small dry fly or a subsurface fly. So again, same thing, your dry or your fly line, your leader, your point fly, and then tying on that dropper fly, whatever it may be. In this instance right here, it's going to be a dry dropper instead of a hopper. So you've got a big mayfly, and then looks like probably a subsurface fly down below there. And then this is kind of just a visual, again, on length of, you know, how long do you tie? How long do you know how to make your fly in the water when you've got a bobber on it? Well, it depends on the current and it depends on the depth of water. So this is going to be, you've got your indicator or your bobber that's going to be showing you when that bobber goes underwater or is hit by a fish or that fly is taken by a fish. You have your point fly, which is going to get down into the water column. And then you have your dropper fly either tied on the curve of the hook, tied off of a tag, or tied from the eye to eye. Here is the tag end style. So this is where that dropper fly is above the point fly, which is really deep down in the water. Again, that weighted point fly is what gets your line and those bugs down in the water column.
Just another visual.
Yeah, just showing you can, and if you can't fish 2 flies, there's nothing wrong with that. Just fish a single fly. Absolutely. Sometimes if the wind is blowing or you just keep getting snagged, just fish 1. So the first one is just a single dropper or a single subsurface fly. Second one is that, excuse me, that point fly with a dropper on it. This would be tied to the curve of the hook. And then the third example here is your point fly and your dropper fly tied off of the tag end. And then one of the other ways to fish is your wet fly. Excuse me. So your wet fly is basically supposed to imitate an emerging insect. So it's an insect that's sitting higher in the water column. You'll notice this wet fly, while it does have a bead, I guarantee you that's not tungsten in there. That bead is just to kind of get it just slightly below the surface. This is a really, really, really effective fly. If you're having a hatch, if you just start to see some bugs come off and the fish are just slightly feeding, you're just barely seeing those noses or just kind of, you know, the turning of the body. They're eating something that's just below the water. They're not just coming up and sipping adults. That's a lot of work. By the time they get to that surface, that adult may be off the water. However, if those trout are watching that bug emerge, here's the trout, and they're watching that bug starting low down, and that bug is starting to come up in the water column, that trout can intersect them before they hit the water surface. But that progression still takes them to the surface and then turning. So your wet flies, your soft tackles, which we tied this year at Hackle and Hops, this is an excellent time to fish that, either singly or as a tag, as a dropper, or even off the backside of your dry fly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Swing that puppy. Get the end of your drift, let your dry fly swing around, and that soft tackle will come up to the top. Oh my goodness. And then if you are a streamer junkie, you can absolutely catch fish on streamers too. Again, thinking about the water temperature. So another thing to add in your pack is get yourself a thermometer. They're super easy to find and really good to have. You know, as the water temperatures are starting to increase, those fish are going to be more willing to come to the surface and eat dry flies and surface flies, but they will not pass up a big juicy meal subsurface, a big bait fish or a crayfish pattern, a leech pattern, all of those things. And, you know, again, thinking about the water and thinking about the depth and thinking about the clarity and thinking about the water temperature are all going to affect how you fish that streamer.
Hey, Liz, quick question, this Peg. Yeah. So what about crayfish patterns in this particular water?
You know, I have personally never fished a crayfish pattern. There are crayfish in this water, and I would probably fish small. I think that a small fly, I think that small fly, you can kind of imitate possibly a crayfish, but possibly maybe a kind of a reddish colored stonefly, maybe a little sculpin if there's an off-colored sculpin. There are crayfish in this waterway. So I don't, like I said, I don't know. I've not fished one. Heather may have more info.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I've never fished one either. But you could do a crayfish pattern and then do a dropper or nymph behind it. You know, so that could be super effective. And if you're under an indicator or if you're stripping it back, you know, so you could, I would say try that too and see if that works. Try a booby fly off your crayfish. Who knows? I mean, honestly,
cutthroat are my favorite because they're just so willing. They will eat just about anything. And totally. They're really fun. They're great.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of a streamer diagram. So if you're fishing streamers, you're going to fish a shorter leader, or just use up those old leaders. So as your 6X or your 5X leader, you've chopped back all that nice 5X tip to it. Maybe you've gotten to the 4 or even 3, and all of a sudden now instead of being 9 feet, it's now like 6 feet. Perfect. That's a perfect streamer leader. Hold on to those puppies.
Cool. Any questions from anyone in regards to kind of the leaders, the flies? I know that that's a lot, it's a lot to take in, but we're going to, this presentation will be available for everybody. So I'll make sure that it's all on the website, and I'll show you where the website is on how to access all of this. But just something to go back to and refer to. One of the biggest things is just look at the local fishing reports too. And as Liz said, we'll be sharing some different, flies that are working or different pictures and talking about all of this as well. But if you have any specific questions, we're here to answer them if there's anything else before we move on to some conservation thoughts.
Quick question, this is Peg again. On the streamer leader size, what do you recommend for that?
You know, like an old 3X leader, like that could be 2 to 5 feet. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes I just go straight up maxima, like 6 or 8 pound maxima, and do about 3 feet. Just tie a perfection loop, so you have a loop to loop connection, and then just do a non-slip loop on the fly. So if those fish are going to be eating streamers, you don't really need that dainty, you know, kind of smaller tippet presentation. For this river specifically, there are some fish that might want something a little bit more, you know, more iridescent or, but yeah, that's what I'd say. And it'll turn your fly over too. Yeah. So short is fine. Any other questions? Cool. All right, let's move on to conservation considerations. Just wanted to give some kind of keep fish wet tips as far as, because we all are here, we all want to, showcase our catch, we want to celebrate it, but also giving some ideas on some other ways to not only be better and best to the fish, but also some other photography suggestions and or thoughts too behind getting away from that classic grip and grin. So wet bare hands are best. So as I'm sure as most know, fish do have a protective slime layer on their outside of their body. And so a lot of times when you have gloves and people wear sun gloves and or, winter gloves or whatever, once you adhere that glove onto the fish's scales, it can actually remove that protective layer. It can cause bacteria. It can cause harm to the fish. So a wet bare hand is best. Easily just take off your gloves if you are wearing sun gloves or anything, and just be mindful, or don't even touch the fish. A lot of times you can have the fish in the net, take your hemos and let them go without even touching them. So less stress on the fish as well. There actually was a study that there was a brook trout that somebody had a tailing glove, like a cotton tailing glove. They held the tail and they showed it a time lapse of it progressively. And like over 2 weeks, the tail, like it just developed a bunch of bacteria. It was really bad because it removed that slime layer. So just something to be mindful of. The other thing too is that, science shows that for trout specifically 10 seconds or less, they can be out of the water. Well, if you choose if you choose to take them out of the water for a picture, you want to be very mindful and minimize their air exposure to where it's 10 seconds or less. And that is accumulative. So if you're picking up, putting down, picking up, putting down, that is an accumulative 10 seconds. So best really thing is to keep the fish in the net, wet your hands, and make sure that you're ready to hold your fish, and make sure that your camera or the photographer is ready as well. And, if you are trying to shoot a selfie, sometimes you're lifting the fish up for quite a while trying to do that. So think about it from a different perspective and maybe take a picture of just your hand with the fish's tail, or something. Just being mindful of the fish. Hold the net under the fish. Not only, this is like one of my favorite photos because it's not even, you don't even see our faces, but that fish, that's the hero. That's why we're there. But so I love a wood net specifically. I think it just aesthetically looks beautiful in photos, but also fish are slippery. So if they drop and you have this fish of a lifetime, which you could catch on the Coeur d'Alene, having the net under it's a good idea so it doesn't swim away. Ask me about the bonefish of a lifetime I caught last week, and we didn't get a photo because it came off. It swam away. So yeah, I should have had a net. No. I think Eric's going to be like having nightmares for the rest of his life because he didn't actually get the photo of it. Leaning over the boat. So if you are in a boat, being mindful of, I would say I've dropped more fish than I'd like to admit in a boat. Fish are wild and they kind of go around. I've dropped them in boats. And so it's not necessarily the best thing for fish. So holding them over the boat, always over water, not over land, not over rocks. The other suggestion too is lean down. So these photos just look so much better when if you're physically able to kneel down, and then the angler is kneel down, and then the photographer is kneel down kind of on that same level, the photos just look so much better. The other thing too is if we have our fish here, A-OK. So we all know the A-OK sign. You can hold on to that fish pretty tight on the back tail. You can take your hand, cup it. The heart is right about here, right behind the gills, which is their lungs. So you can just kind of barely touch it. And it's going to be, if you're calm, I guarantee that fish is going to be calm too. So just, all small little things that we can do. This was not a selfie that I took because it was my other hand, but I've taken a ton of beautiful photos of my hand with the fish. Also doing video, putting it on 4K mode, and filming the fish leaving the net, you know, if you're by yourself or whatever, if you shoot it in 4K, and most cell phones do shoot in 4K now via video, you can take a screenshot of a specific frame of that video, and it's a beautiful photo. So just another thing, you know, to kind of watch. And it's so, you know, it's like, that's why we're here, is we're watching the fish swim away, because then, you know, we'll have opportunity for the next time. Thinking outside the box. So, you know, casting photos, fish fun photos, even banana photos. I fear no fruit. So bananas, you bring it on. I'll have bananas on the boat anytime. Yeah. And just thinking about different loops, different casting. Again, it's just thinking about that whole entire adventure and the experience that we're having. The fish are beautiful and amazing. And so how else can we celebrate and celebrate them with photos? So just other stuff to think about. And we're almost done, but COVID policy, I know we've heard COVID this, COVID that. It's still around. I'm still taking care of patients at the hospital. I'm sure Liz can tell you that as well. It's not gone away. And so we're mindful of it. Obviously, Idaho is Idaho. And so there are no regulations, but if there were something to happen, or if you have symptoms, or if you've tested positive, we just ask that you don't come. We want to make sure that this is a safe weekend, and that it would be a bummer, but it's just better for all if you are having symptoms for that choice. And as far as a disclaimer goes, like, this whole weekend is all about empowerment and fun and community and education, and just leave the drama at home. There is no place for this weekend, or really for anywhere in the world, to have any drama. So if anything happens, you reach out to Liz, Amy, or I, and we will put the kibosh on that drama, because that does not belong in our circles, in our world. And, you know, it's all about having fun and learning. And if you need a mentor, then please feel free. Like, we're all here. We want to help, you know, give you a couple hours of our time on Saturday to help with whatever. If you want to learn double hauling better, if you want to learn how to roll cast better, you want to learn how to tie knots, if you want to learn how to approach the water and get a better drift, you want to learn aerial mends, if you want to learn on water mends, we've got you. So we're here. We want to help, and just take advantage of us, you know, especially in this amazing, amazing opportunity for this amazing river. Again, here's our contact information, and I'm going to open it up for any additional questions.